Ravens flock, happy Saturday. It is 3:20 Eastern in the afternoon, the 17th of August, and this is your post-game live stream after preseason game number 2 for the Ravens. They'll wrap up preseason play next Saturday in Green Bay against the Packers, but today they are back in the win column. They take care of the Atlanta Falcons 13-12 in what was a super speedy game. I know those of you who probably went out to the bank, who maybe even have plans to do the double dipper and go back downtown or stay downtown for the Orioles game in a few hours, probably were happy that it went so quick. I think it was under 3 hours, perhaps. But the Ravens get it done. Welcome inside the vault for a post-game live stream. I'm your host, Bobby Trosset. Sarah Ellison still on vacation. 13-12 is your final, like I mentioned. Today's live stream is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And like Jonas says here, next up, joint practice this week with Green Bay, and of course the finale on the road at the Packers. Now, there's a number of things that I wanted to discuss in terms of takeaways from the game itself. Want to get your thoughts as well as we go throughout. But this right here was the main man. When it was all said and done, Tavius Robinson got it done. He was back in the game after Adiza Isaac went down. We'll get an injury update on him in just a bit. But Adiza made the game-winning play. Tavius made the game-winning play on Atlanta's would-be two-point conversion. And it was something else. Tavius flies around. Chuck Smith referred to Tavius as a glass eater earlier in the week. And yes, he did pounce on Falcons running back Jace McClellan on that two-point conversion. Helped the Ravens get a W. And now Baltimore moves on to bigger and better things coming up this week. Good for Tavius, second-year player, trying to establish himself in that outside linebacker room. Canadian blood, trying to become something that room needs, I would say. A presence with a lot of question marks. What there wasn't a question mark coming out of, and I should say one of the big question marks coming into today, was certainly the play of Josh Johnson coming off a really just poor, underwhelming performance in that first preseason game against Philadelphia. Well, Josh heard the noise apparently, because he came out and went a perfect 11 for 11 with 120 passing yards, a touchdown, and a quarterback rating of 142.4. Certainly a bounce-back performance for 37-year-old journeyman quarterback Josh Johnson, who was in the front row seat to be Lamar's primary backup for the 2024 season. He was much more in control. The offense flowed better with him. He didn't make any big mistakes. A really nice, solid performance from Josh Johnson. There were a couple other quarterbacks who played as well. Devin Leary and Emory Jones got some run. Most notably, Emory threw a 56-yard touchdown and dropped it in. Really just a teardrop to Dayton Wade, the undrafted rookie. Dayton finished with 2 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 4 times. We'll get into that in just a bit. But Emory looked good. I still think this is Josh Johnson based on what the team's messaging has been. It certainly seems as if Josh Johnson, it's his role to lose backing up Lamar. But again, the key here is, as you hear can you guys hear the ice cream truck in the background? I'm still in upstate New York. I just got down off the ladder. I listened to Jerry Sandusky and Rod Woodson call this game on WBAL. And I listened to it because I've been up on the ladder painting all day. And now, of course, in the neighborhood on a Saturday afternoon, you've got the ice cream truck coming through trying to disrupt my flow. Apologies for that. But a good solid, the moral of the story here is it was a big-time bounce-back performance for Josh Johnson. Here's some of the starters that he worked with initially. At wide receiver, Tylan Wallace, Keith Kirkwood, and Malik Cunningham started the game. Owen Wright was his starting running back, and Charlie Kohler started at tight end. And here's how the pass catcher statistics shook out. Dayton Wade led the way with 2 receptions for 67 yards, perhaps making a case that he should still be involved in the conversation for the back end of that 2024 53-man roster wide receiver room. Keith Kirkwood, the veteran who they picked up at the tail end of free agency earlier this summer, had 2 catches for 37 yards. Tylan Wallace had a nice grab for 31. Malik Cunningham was active. He had 3 catches for 28 yards. He targeted three times, so he caught all 3. Malik, of course, having recently transitioned from quarterback to wide receiver. Chris Collier, the undrafted rookie running back, had a couple catches. Anthony Miller continues his active week, his first since being signed to the Ravens. He had 3 catches for 16 yards. And you see the rest of this list with some undrafted rookies getting in there, including Kadir Ismail, who had 3 catches for 8 yards as he continues to put forth maybe not the strongest game per se in terms of statistics, but all indications are telling you that Kadir, son of Kadri, recently converted from wide receiver to tight end, is having a strong summer. And here's the play, courtesy of Ravens Productions, not the actual play itself, but the still shots that they posted from Emory Jones to Dayton Wade, 56-yard strike. And yeah, Dayton hit his guy with a double move. Anthony Johnson, Falcons cornerback, had him in coverage. And yeah, to Bo's point, he's not going to love watching the film of that one. Dayton made him look silly. Emory dropped it right in the bucket. Biggest play of the day for the Ravens, and one that ultimately was one of the difference makers here. What about on the ground? Chris Collier finished with seven rushing attempts, 7 carries, I should say, for 13 yards. Owen Wright had 8 carries for 9 yards. He was also involved in the passing game a little bit, as Chris Collier was. And then Owen, who's the undrafted rookie trying to sneak his way onto the roster to be RB3 this year. How about the way he laid it all out to cross the... Look at that. Fantastic grab to cross into the end zone. Number 36. He's popped a little bit. He certainly popped in that first preseason game. And Luke Jones noting that on 3rd and goal from the 6, Josh Johnson hit Owen in the flat, and Owen did the rest. Luke also noting that the Ravens aren't moving anybody when trying to run the ball, but yeah, Johnson had a very, very effective first half through the air, 11 for 11, but they were having, Ravens, not a memorable day on the ground by any stretch of the imagination. Just 71 total yards. Collier led the way with 29 of those. John Kelly got some run, who they brought in to serve as, you would think, a training camp body role from Cleveland earlier this week, probably because Rasheen Ali is still banged up from that first preseason game. He did not play today. Owen Wright finished with just, like I said, 9 yards on 8 carries. And you saw some of the quarterbacks get involved in the running game a little bit as well. A couple scrambles from Josh Johnson and Devin Leary. I know I talked about this earlier in the week, so I wanted to give an update since John Harbaugh gave one on Devontae Walker, who's had a very, very, very slow start to his rookie campaign here, even though it's not regular season play yet, and I recognize that. But John Harbaugh said that Tez is still dealing with a rib injury. He was targeted just once. If that, you know what? I just checked the box score. Devontae wasn't even targeted once, and it looks like he played just 1 snap. Bo noted that he was not on the sideline with other wide receivers when the Ravens had the ball. But he was still in uniform in post-game handshakes. Bottom line is Devontae is clearly banged up. And I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start on IR. I just don't know if he's ready. And I'm talking about from a physical standpoint and also just like prepared wise. NFL ready. He does not look NFL ready yet. And for the Ravens, that's obviously disappointing because he's their 4th round pick. He had a tremendous second half of the season last year with UNC. And he was sort of projected to be, yes, a developmental guy, but like somebody who can be another vertical threat for you. And it just hasn't panned out yet. It's very early. He has been banged up. He did flash in rookie minicamp. But at this point, it's been very, very underwhelming for number 81. And the rib setback certainly isn't helping the case and his cause. So do not be surprised if that under a couple weeks from right now on the 27th, 10 days from now to be exact, John Harbaugh and company opt to keep him, place him on IR to begin the season and then, kind of act accordingly at wide receiver. And maybe there's a connection there. There's a correlation between these recent veterans being brought in and them potentially planning ahead and thinking to themselves, okay, Devontae may not be ready come week 1. The Ravens starting offensive line during pregame warmups consisted of the following players. At left tackle, it was Josh Jones. Left guard, Andrew Voorhees. Patrick McCary was your starting center. Daniel Fa'alele continues to be given opportunities at right guard. Roger Rosengarten was your right tackle, and there he is with his former QB that he protected the blind side of during his years at Washington. Michael Penix Jr., Atlanta's first-round pick back in April. He's going to back up Kirk Cousins this season. And remember, McCary started the preseason opener at right tackle. Ben Cleveland started at center, as Jonas notes here. I really have to sneeze. Give me a second here. I've been acting or feeling like I need to sneeze for multiple minutes. And then as soon as I say it, I no longer have to sneeze. I'm working outside all day. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I literally feel like I have to sneeze right now. So I will try to mute it so that I have to put you guys through that. Bottom line is we will wait and see how the offensive line that began the game, because in the second half, it was mostly guys that aren't going to be on the 53-man roster whatsoever. It'll be practice squad, jockeying, that type of thing. But we'll wait and see how this starting 5 grades out. But I will tell you, in the second series, when Ben Cleveland came out and took over for McCary at center, there was a major botch snap miscommunication between him and Josh Johnson, which ultimately led to a fumble, and it was recovered by Atlanta. The optics surrounding Ben Cleveland right now, not great. He gets the entire first half starting at center a week ago. Tyler Linderbaum remains down. Ben has barely gotten any time at right guard lately, at least running with the ones, which Fa'alele has had a chance to. And it just begs the question, what will Ben's role be in 2024? Because you got me on that one. If you feel like you have a clear picture on that, God bless you, because I have absolutely zero clue what the plan is for Ben. And unless it's like, hey, we feel like we know what Ben is now at this point at guard because we've seen it, particularly in regular season play. So let's kind of use him elsewhere, especially while Tyler's down. And maybe he can serve as our primary backup at center. But again, to say that I have clarity on that situation, offensively speaking, would not be accurate. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball. But before we do, this live stream is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And I would love for you to consider joining them this week on Wednesday. That's August 21st from 6:30 to 8 o'clock for a home buying webinar. My guy, Zach Evans, is going to take you through the entire process. Whether you're a first-time buyer, maybe you're looking to upgrade, he's going to guide you through every step. He's an industry expert, a friend of mine, and somebody who I really have a lot of trust in. So don't miss the chance to turn your home ownership dreams into reality. Wednesday, August 21st, that's coming up this week. You can scan the QR code to register today. That'll secure your spot and also enter you in for a chance to win a $25 gift card. All that information can be found in the show notes below. Thank you to Primary Residential Mortgage for supporting our channels and doing great work in the Baltimore community and beyond. And just know you do not have to be in the Baltimore area to be eligible. Defensive takeaways from this preseason game. For those of you who are just chiming in, happy Saturday. Hope you guys are having a great day. Ravens are 13-12 winners in preseason game number 2 against Atlanta. And here's who they rolled out there starting-wise on the defensive side of the ball. Their linemen, Travis Jones and Broderick Washington. Malik Harrison and Trenton Simpson were your inside backers. David Ojabo and Tavius Robinson handled outside linebacker duties. At corner, Pepe handled duties at the slot. Pepe Williams in the slot. Kadar Hallman and Jalen Armour Davis outside. And then at safety, Eddie Jackson got his welcome to Baltimore moment, announced as a starter. One of their free agency acquisitions earlier in the summer. And our Darius Washington as well rounded out this group for Zach Orr's starting defense. Let me tell you, when's the last time you've had this kind of surefire confidence about a player going into, okay, not his first NFL run, but his first full season as a projected starter? Because it seems to me there is universal confidence and belief in Trenton Simpson. Look at him go after Taylor Heineke. He knifes through the defense. He's running sideline to sideline. He plays with this freakish athleticism and an unrelenting passion. And it just seems like he is more than prepared for his time, and his time has come. He ran through 2 blockers to get a big hit on Taylor Heineke. Taylor's gotten a number of opportunities to start and play some meaningful football in his career. He's got nearly 30 starts. And perhaps because of the QB situation in Atlanta, if he doesn't end up making the roster, which, again, Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix are there, perhaps he ends up somewhere else. But Trenton Simpson made sure he knew he was playing. Trenton finishes with final numbers, again, mostly first half work for Trenton. 2 tackles, one of which was a tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and a quarterback hit. Trent was all over the place. Bo Braid, the undrafted rookie safety out of Maryland, led the way for Baltimore's defense with 8 tackles, 5 of which were solo. He's a baller. He belongs. I don't know if he's going to have room on this 53-man roster, but wow, he's going to end up somewhere. I'm not sure, based on the way he's played, how he ends up clearing waivers and ended up on Baltimore's practice squad. I mean, this guy's a player. You can just tell. Daniel, I'm with you, and that's where I was headed next. It was good to see David Ojabo not only flying around, but cleared. He's been cleared to play in preseason football. It's a big win. Ojabo underwent ACL surgery just in November, so pretty quick turnaround for number 90. And Bo noted that Ravens have to be encouraged by what they saw from him in that first half. No sacks, but he was active, disruptive, created pressure, got a couple of shots in, and most importantly, he looked healthy and ready to go. I certainly second that. David Ojabo did have a quarterback hit and a good solid first half of health. Happy for number 90 because a lot of questions in that outside linebacker room. And when when Adisa Isaac went to the medical tent, you're thinking, oh my, is there going to be another question on top of what already is uncertain about this room? And luckily for Baltimore, luckily for their rookie, not first round, but for their, when did they select Adisa? I'm just forgetting. I want to say it was second or third. Third. Yeah, third round out of Penn State. Anyway, he was cramping up. He went into the medical tent. And John Harbaugh didn't seem all that concerned after the game. Jonas noting that, his conditioning's not all the way back because he literally just returned this week from injury. He'd been dealing with a hamstring setback throughout the first chunk of training camp. So Adisa, he was active. He had 4 tackles, 2 of which were solo, and wreaked some good havoc in there. I liked what I saw from Adisa. But I think one of the things going into this year, given what they've lost, is, well, who's going to emerge? What kind of outside linebacker room? What's the makeup of the outside linebacker room? I don't know the answer to that right now. Then again, we didn't know the answer to that question this time last year, which has been well documented, being that Jadeveon and Kyle weren't even in Baltimore's plans this time last year. But the same questions remain, and they will linger probably up until the 5th, until we figure out who's going to emerge from that group or which groupings are going to emerge. And perhaps it becomes a by committee approach. Timmy P checking in that Odafe Owe will shine. We did not see him today. We will not see him, you would think, throughout the rest of the preseason. But certainly for Odafe, this is a massive year with his 5th-year option being picked up in the offseason and given what they've lost in that room. Hey, Christopher, appreciate you. Thanks for being with us. He said, what's up, Bobby? Listen to you guys while I'm working every day, brother. Keep it up. Love the chemistry you guys have. We love that you love us. Thanks for being here on this Saturday. Very unusual time for me to be live streaming. It was a 12 noon kickoff. The game flew, and now we got Orioles baseball coming up tonight. They are thick in the middle. They are very, very deep in the middle of a thick playoff race in the AL East and a game back from the New York Yankees. And the 2 Zays, they did not play, but they were warming up pregame. Was Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely, 2 of Lamar's pass catchers. Big MP, number 34, Michael Pierce, back for a second stint in Baltimore. An important part of the defensive puzzle, particularly when it comes to clogging the run, being that run stuffer specialist that we know he's capable of being. So, big takeaways. It was a bounce back day for Josh Johnson. Some of you still, and I think it's very fair of you to have your concerns about Josh Johnson that remain even after today. But Josh did bounce back. He had a tremendous day, really. 11 for 11, 120 yards, a touchdown, and a quarterback rating of 142.4. And he's doing that without a lot of starters, obviously. So will that quiet some nerves for the time being? I'm sure he'll get more run in game 3 and in the preseason finale next week. But to be honest with you, Emory Jones showed some pop. And I would like to see more from him. I was actually happy. I was really happy for him too, especially coming off last week. He got 1 snap at the end of the game, and it was a botched snap that Philadelphia recovered and then turned around and kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired. So it'd be nice to get a little bit more of a sample size from Emory Jones. But as of right now, to use Mike Tomlin's words, it sure seems as if Josh is in pole position to be Lamar Jackson's primary backup in 2024. I think the Ravens really value his experience, his familiarity with the system. They're comfortable. He's been around. This is not his first time with the organization. And so I think that was one question that was answered, or like I said, for the time being, it quiets the noise. Outside of Josh, this wide receiver room and the way the back end of it shapes up over the next 10 days, I'm not sure there's a more compelling position group leading into 53-man roster cuts. 10 days from now, on the 27th, you got to trim it from 90 to 53. Let's just say that between now and then, Devontae potentially gets placed on IR and begins the season on IR. That opens up a spot. And so while Zay, Rashad, and Nelly are your untouchables in terms of 53-man roster locks, all of a sudden you're looking at 3 potential openings for to round out your 6-man wide receiver room. So who's done enough to warrant that kind of positioning? I would say Tylen has. I would like to get more of a look at Anthony Miller, who's had a really stellar first week in Baltimore. So let's say if my theory ends up heading in that direction, and Devontae's, and I'm certainly not rooting for this by any stretch, but let's say Tez Walker ends up on IR to begin the season. And the Ravens feel like, you know what? He's banged up in the rib area, and we don't feel like he's ready yet, NFL ready. In which case, Zay, Rashad, Nelly, and Tylen become 4 guys that are definitely in this picture. Who's your 5 and 6? Keith Kirkwood. Some of you are checking in on him in the live chat right now. He was active today. He's got a lot of NFL experience as a veteran. 2 receptions for 37 yards. My guy, Eye of Horus Taurus down in Florida, says that Kirkwood should make the team. John Jay says, I feel like the Ravens are trying to change the narrative on the wide receivers. Well, in order to change the narrative, you got to hit more consistently in the draft. They certainly haven't done enough of that yet. Dr. Ilwan says that 5 and 6 in his wide receiver room are Anthony Miller and Dayton Wade. I want to see more of both. And I think we're going to get that. Brian Spar checking in on, and thank you, Tanya. Thank you for chiming in on Tavius Robinson. Play of the day at the end to deny the Falcons for that 2-point conversion. But Brian Spar, back to the conversation that we're on about wide receivers, brought up something that I should have mentioned, and that is, look, Malik Cunningham, it feels like a very natural transition for him based on his athletic traits. And Brian says Malik has lots of potential, but not sure if he can contribute on special teams. I'm not sure either. But I think he probably clears waivers and becomes a practice squad player for you. And something Rod Woodson talked about during the broadcast was, let's say Malik in the future ends up a part of your roster. Think about the trickery, given his past as a quarterback, and a successful one at that, during his time at Louisville. Think about the amount of trickery that you can now deploy if you're Todd Monken. Malik's got an arm. Malik is a quarterback by trade. That's kind of crafty and a little intriguing. Perhaps next year, this time next year, when Malik has an entire year of wide receiver experience under his belt, he'll really be vying for a spot. Walk the plank, chiming in, saying, I would say Malik is a practice squad player for now. I don't see him making the roster just yet, and I would agree. And that's kind of the vision that I'm trying to illustrate right now. But make no mistake about it, over the next 10 days, the back end of this wide receiver room, as we suspected it would, there's going to be a crunch and perhaps even an open competition for spot number 5 and 6. Outside of the wide receiver position, I would say at running back, didn't get a lot of clarity in terms of RB3 today. Rasheen Ali did not play. He's still dealing with a stinger from the first preseason game, like I mentioned. So in terms of roles and positioning, I don't have a lot of clarity there. Owen Wright looked really good on this touchdown. Johnson dumped it off to him in the flat, and Owen did the rest. But I think it could really come down to the Ravens choosing, a rookie that they actually spent draft compensation on, draft capital on in Rasheen, even though I think we can probably all agree that Owen, who's been in the system for a year now, has popped more so. That could come down to the wire, or the Ravens are going to take their a philosophical approach to this and roll with, the player that they've invested in. And that's what they've done with Rasheen Ali. What questions do you guys have? I've talked defense. Obviously, Trenton Simpson popped, and there's really no surprise about that. Not a ton of takeaways elsewhere. Bo Braid's a player. Thought Pepe Williams and Jalen Armour-Davis continue to put themselves in the conversation that they both should make the 53-man roster at cornerback. Ardarius Washington, I definitely view him as a lock. He had a few nice tackles. Pepe had 5 tackles, a pass deflection, a quarterback hit. 4 of those 5 tackles were solo, so Pepe was flying around. He also continues to kind of make a play. He wants to be a return specialist for this team. And speaking of return specialists, we got our first real look here at Deontay Hardy, the veteran wide receiver who has a ton of experience as a return specialist, spent last year in Buffalo. He had 2 kick returns for 37 yards total, along of 19. And he also got 2 punt returns, totaling 22 total yards, and a long of 15. I think Deontay's in their plans. I think he's been banged up for a good portion of this summer so far. But I think Deontay Hardy is in their plans. And then after that, you got guys that are scratching and clawing for an opportunity to back them up, like Tylen, like Pepe. So perhaps there's some wiggle room there, but it does kind of feel like Deontay, especially given the contract that they awarded him, you got to feel like Deontay is probably a shoo-in to serve as their starting return specialist, first string, if you will. Antonio weighing in right now with a super chat donation on this exact topic. Thank you, Antonio, first of all, for spending part of your late Saturday afternoon with me. Very odd to be on right now. 12 noon kick. It did go under 3 hours. I love that. Antonio says, is there an open competition at kick return? I don't think so. I think they're just trying to get a bunch of different looks. They're trying to, one, get through the preseason healthy. But I think Deontay's going to be their guy. And then outside of that, they have, like I said, they're going to have other guys that'll be around. You know, assuming that Pepe and Tylen will be locks to make the initial 53. Both of those guys they've been tinkering with. Cameron Walker, what's up, brother? Appreciate you for being here. Your question is, how confident are you in the D-line? Ajabo played well, I believe, just not getting a sack, but was everywhere. It's hard to be confident with. You're not seeing many bodies out there. Right, Matt is not playing in the preseason. This team's going to function differently with him. You're not seeing any Kyle Van Noy. You're not seeing any Adafe Owe handling the edge. So while it was a step forward for Ajabo, it's really hard to evaluate. I mean, Travis Jones is getting run out there, and he's really been one of the lone, I guess, Simpson with him on the second level. But you're not seeing a lot of starters out there, nor should you, for preseason football, which means it's just kind of hard to evaluate. It's the same way trying to grade and evaluate offensive line right now. Now that's for different reasons. There were some starters out there, but it's just hard to do so immediately after the game. Now that said, Daniel Fa'alele, who's garnered a ton of attention, a lot of criticism this summer, don't feel like that there was anything egregiously bad or alarming from him, and he got some run at right guard in that first half. So perhaps that's a sign of things to come for Daniel. Sort of been the summer experiment, if you will, for the Ravens offensive line. Daniel wants to know who's QB3. So Lamar QB1, Josh Johnson QB2. We've seen so little of Devin Leary that I feel like that's, again, one of those things where he's a draft pick, right? Day 3 out of Kentucky, and Emory Jones is your undrafted guy. Unless Emory lights it up over the next 10 days, you would think that that's Devin's job to lose. But it's such a small sample size. And when we do see them, a guy like Devin Leary, he's not running with the ones. It's tough. That gets really, really tough to evaluate. But as of right now, I'll stick with the Ravens' philosophical approach, just in terms of the way that they've, giving benefit of doubt almost, or wanting to see through, picks of theirs that they've invested in draft capital wise. The Boulder, anyone on the bubble after this game? Oh, of course. There's a lot of bubble players. Definitely. I mean, Sala, second-year player, second-year tackle out of Oregon. I would think that he's a bubble player. Nick Samak, probably a bubble player. Their 7th rounder, the center out of Michigan State. He got some run in that second half, but I would think he's a bubble player. I don't want to refer to. I know Kadir has had a fantastic summer. I just think when you really look at it realistically, knowing that the Ravens tight end room is the deepest in the league, I just don't know if I want to refer to Kadir as a bubble player. When I want to refer to him as somebody that's ascending, somebody that's on the rise, and perhaps should he clear waivers, ends up becoming a nice practice squad piece for you to be developed, and then maybe plucked one day. Or, God forbid, you have an injury in the tight end room and you got a candidate to be that type of guy for you. And he had a few catches, Cameron. Kadir Ismail finished with 3 catches for 8 yards. Caught all 3 balls that head his way. Targeted 3 times. Solid summer for him. Timmy P going out on a limb here and saying that Ben Cleveland is getting cut this year. Oh, boy. They need as many reserve offensive linemen as they can who have tremendous is not the right word, who have experience operating under live bullets. And Ben has that. Unless there's something behind the scenes that's taken place that's led to a lack of belief or a character knock or something within those categories, I don't see how Ben's not a part of the equation. The whole center experiment has been strange. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we've seen him yet in preseason play at guard. So whether that's because they feel like they have enough tape on him at guard and they want to see what he's all about at center, or that's just like he's not in our guard plans, is strange. Ben Cleveland and his ongoing situation with the team and the lack of clear vision that's been shared with us on the outside is one of the more stranger things. I think he stays. Ramey in the live chat. What's up, brother? You and I are aligned on that one. Ramey says if Ben didn't get cut last season, don't see any reason as to why it would happen this season. You just got to be careful. You can't just get rid of, to me, while he has his fair share of question marks, there's a lot more in the building at his position that have plenty more uncertainty swirling around them than Ben does. I think they know who Ben is. Now, perhaps this summer they've been trying to figure out more about who Ben is and what he can be at the NFL level. But yeah, I think he's in their plans. Some of you still haven't given up on him starting right guard. Walk the plank thinks that Ben's still got a dang good chance. Well, it'll have been a summer-long experiment for Daniel Fa'alele, all for naught. Not all for naught, but you know what I mean. And he does. He's not just a reserve offensive lineman, right? Or he's not just a guard. To Dr. Ilwan's point, Ben Cleveland plays more than one position. Indeed. I think you gotta keep that. David, happy Saturday to you. Appreciate you guys for being here. We're talking preseason football, post-game live. Sarah's still on vacation. Today's live stream has been brought to you by Primary Residential Mortgage. Let's get to some more Q&A before we wrap up. Almost 500 of you in here. Thank you for being here. Like the video if you've been enjoying things. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we're dropping our live content. Patrick York and Sarah Kendall, thank you both for believing in what we're building. You are literally our OG patrons who support us through Patreon, and you have since the second we made our Patreon memberships available. So with that, appreciate you OGs. Thank you guys for the support. And then on the Bobby Baltimore side of things, Toey and Richard, thank you both as well. You guys can visit the show notes below in the description if you want to get started as well with the start of football season and you want to support us through Patreon. It's a great time to do so, being that football is literally back There was my brother and I were talking about this when I was up on the ladder earlier because we've been painting my mother's house, as some of you have been probably following along with this summer. And we had the radio call, Jerry Sandusky and Rod Woodson blaring through one of the windows on a speaker. And just like the the sound of football being back and kind of like booming through the neighborhood on what is not exactly a fall day up here. It's actually pretty warm, and I'm drenched right now because I didn't even shower after I got off the ladder because I'm going back up on the ladder as soon as I finish this up. The sound of football being back just felt right. It kind of like jolt. There was a jolt inside of me. Like it's right around the corner. September 5th, the Ravens kick things off, and I know Sarah and I are super fired up about yet another year of partnership. What's up, Joe? Appreciate you being here. I do think that Josh Johnson, I'm not saying that I'm thrilled with this, but based on the team's messaging, I think he has QB2 locked up. I do. Yeah. Ben Cleveland. Why'd I say Ben Cleveland? I saw a comment and then it went away. Anything else from you guys? Joint practices with Green Bay coming up this week. Preseason finale a week from today against the Packers at their place, Lambeau. And then week 1 follows. So, I hope you guys enjoy the Orioles game tonight for those of you who are either staying downtown or heading downtown or whatever your plans are. I believe that's a 7 o'clock first pitch, isn't it? Let's see. 7:05. Red Sox and Orioles. And that AL East, boy, it is getting real interesting here down the stretch. Orioles just a half game out of the Yanks, 72-51 on the year. Comfortable lead over the rest of the division. It is probably, barring something crazy, it's going to come down between New York and Baltimore for that pennant. Got issues with Craig Kimber, boy. Orioles should have saw and recognized what Philadelphia saw at the tail end of last year. He's a Hall of Famer. He's had flashes this year, but it's been a really, really ugly second half of the season for not only him, but the Orioles are just one game above 500 in the second half of the year since the All-Star break. That's concerning. But the Yankees did lose, so that's right. You can get back in. You can get back atop the AL East with a win tonight against Boston. Randy, thank you for tuning in from Iowa. I will be safe on the ladder. If you go head on over to Instagram, by the way, for those of you who like to see life behind the scenes of content and whatnot, you can connect with me there. I try to post as many updates from this wild summer. That's been a full painting summer. You can connect with me at Bobby Baltimore. Progress updates, too. I had a photo up from earlier. It's got to be 30 or 40 feet to the top of this thing. It's the far left-hand side of the house. And in classic fashion, like the hardest part of the job, we save for last. I save for last. So the rest of the night, we got to finish up the first coat of paint. Hopefully the second will come tomorrow, weather permitting. Unless something happens, won't be back in live stream action until Monday. But again, I appreciate you guys for hanging out. You can like the video if you enjoyed the content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we're dropping our daily content. The Ravens take care of business. Preseason game number 2, a win, 13-12. And now next up is Green Bay. And, of course, the roster crunch continues, and we will be watching the back end of the wide receiver room, the cornerback room, and several other developments between now and the 27th. So thank you for all the love in the live chat. I see it pouring in. I appreciate it. I know Saturday preseason football, probably not the smoothest or cleanest or most polished live stream that I've ever done. But hey, we owe it to you. Sarah will be doing a solo broadcast on Saturday, a week from today. We have a family wedding in Cooperstown, New York. Really looking forward to that, actually. And then for a second consecutive year, get this, for a second consecutive summer, the night before the Ravens home opener, I'm officiating a wedding. The good news is, unlike last year, where I was in upstate New York and had to leave at 4 a.m. in order to get back for the home opener, this time around, the wedding's actually in the Maryland area. It's in Chestertown. So looking forward to my second ever officiant gig on September 14th, because then the Ravens square off against the Raiders the 15th. I think that's how it's all going. So anyway, it's going to be fun. It's all coming up, and football is so back. Thank you to Primary Residential Mortgage for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to all of you for popping on. Go enjoy your Saturdays, your Saturday evenings. And if not before, I'll catch up with you for a 12 noon Ravens lunch hour live stream this coming Monday. Thanks, guys. Enjoy it. I'll talk to you.